Okay, so currently we can see there board one and two. Just waiting screen share of one of the games so that we can commentate on that. But currently, looks very exciting. Mr. Piesha look very relaxed there against candidate master Keith Kumalo. You can see there on board one, White getting up, going for perhaps a smoke break or a drinks break or something. The nerves are getting there. Yeah, so it's very exciting to see the guys. Wait and see if we can get that link of one of the games on the screen to analyze. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Um, I don't know. There seems to be a lag somewhere with this internet business because there's load shedding in Kuruman at this moment. Right. So it looks like Tato and Koyani's games are not, or rather, it's not playing yet. Because I
Mr. Ram,
can only
you
see.
are back.
Yes, Mr. Wens, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Welcome back. You have load shedding on that side.
Yeah, Kuruman has been hit heavily with load shedding lately. We get like two load sheddings per day. They call it stage two or whatever they call it. We get load shedding in the morning and in the afternoon, and sometimes during the middle of the night, you can hear the
Yes.
fridges going off. Then you must get this load shedding, so it's crazy around here.
Yeah.
So I can see Mr.
Okay.
Mr.
Let's hope for the best. Currently, we're struggling to get one of the games on the screen.
Whose game? Kolani and Tato's game. Has it already started?
I'm listening.
Has Tuani and Tato's game already started, or it hasn't started yet? Hello.
No, it's just board one and two that's playing. Uh, I think there's going to be a default on that board three. Yeah, so it's only Mr. Pesa against Pete Kamalo, and on board one where we have my apologies, where we have Daniel and Mizo playing it out. So we're trying to get one of the screens. We're going to try our best to get it from the second round because we seem to have some technical difficulties with one of or both games on the screen. But we'll try from the second round to get it here so that we'll analyze and see what exactly is happening on the boards. Because it's very difficult to look at it from here.
Yeah, we really can't see the actual position from this point. But I
All I
saw.
can,
Can you hear me?
I'm listening.
Let,
Yes, I
let
can.
me let me let me reboot my system and perhaps get the earphones because I find it hard to hear you and there's some echo. There's some echo in my audio. So let me reboot my system, then I'll get back on the show, man.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Maza. Yeah, it seems we can't fix this technical error. So um, we see on board two there that Mr. Kumalo is gone for a break or breather. Board one looks very tight. The guys are both with their heads on the board, um, focused. Mr. Pesa taking his time on his next move, analyzing, obviously, in his mind, looking at all types of variations. So now we see Mr. Pesa looking at castling, kingside, and Mr. Marlowe's move now next to who seems to be very attacking in if you look at the middle board there. Um, it seems as if black is on the attack. White queen in the center of the board, looking very demanding from the side. As I said earlier on, we cannot be precise at predicting which opening and which defense is being played currently. Mr. Kumalo taking his time, looking at his reply or his response to White's last castling move. We see Mr. Pesa also taking a breather, taking his glass. Okay, so as we're looking at this very talented young man, um, uh, a lot of people feeling that looking at the next South African Grandmaster, this is Mr. Keith Kumalo that we are looking at contemplating his next move. As I said earlier on, very talented and yeah, a lot of chess in their brain. Mr. Pesa taking his seat. So sanitizing before taking his seat there. Marlowe looking a bit less comfortable as earlier on, but can't be sure what what's going on in his mind. So let's wait and see. Yeah, and yeah, we're trying to get the board on the screen so that we can see exactly what's happening. So please bear with us. We'll keep on trying to put the board on the screen for all of us to follow properly. Okay, we can see Mr. Pesa has left his seat again. These are all mind games that the guys are playing. You know, we quite aware this is how what psychological mind games the guys are playing with each other when getting up while your opponent is contemplating his next move. Or what do you say, Mr. Amase? It's all psychology.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, it's
there we
something like
go.
that. But I remember when Spassky was playing. Uh, yeah, can you hear me loud and clear now?
Yes, very clear and loud, Mr. Amase.
Like I said, I was saying that when Spassky was playing Fischer, and one of Fischer's, he was not necessarily a second to Fischer, but he was someone who was accompanying Fischer at Iceland, at Reykjavik, where they were playing the match. So the guy was like,
Yes,
aren't you afraid of Spassky and the Russians and the way they behave, the way they conduct themselves when they walk? And Fischer said something
yes,
like, I don't believe in psychology, I believe in good moves. So
yes.
you have to be very, very like mentally strong when you
Aware of
play
those.
chess. The psychology that these people
Yes,
are playing, it shouldn't sway you in any way. And even Mikhail Tal was saying something like he would make a silly peace sacrifice or even a pawn sacrifice, and the opponent
yes,
will be so scared that what are the follow-ups for this move that Tal has plagued rather. And Tal was
yes.
more of a psychologist than a chess player, so it depends on how you look at it. So in another instance, you have Fischer, who was very confident in himself. He was very, very confident. He used to carry this small rubber ball that he used to squeeze.
Yes. Yeah, still one of my best.
Fisher used to carry
Um,
this rubber ball that he used to squeeze from now and then. And they asked him, "What are you doing with that rubber ball?" And he was like, "I want to squeeze the hand of the Russians when I meet them." So Fisher was more of a psychologist, pop psychology, a reverse mental psychology himself. I think that's why he managed to defeat the Soviet Union that time. So yeah, psychology plays a big
yes,
part in chess, Mister Menes.
yes. We're looking at the and we are happy to have this board on the screen now. Looking at Lizo playing Whitey against Dana Pondo. White is a pawn up, but he has a weakness of this double pawns on the e file here, as you can
Mm,
see.
mm,
His last move was a knight to d1. Okay.
yeah.
Your opinion about the position? Who looks? Because you can see that black as a two pawn islands. This
Mm,
pawn is basically stranded here. He needs to be protected by the rook or another piece at some stage against this pawn storm.
mm.
This island on this side from white. So, what is your opinion? How do you think this might play out? as it, material wise, white is leading, pawn up, but positionally, what's your take on this?
White is, like you said, there's three pawn islands, but his pawn majority on the queen side, his pawn majority, the A and the B pawn. Eventually, he is going to make a pass pawn there. He can even exchange the pass pawn, and white. I mean, black's rook. It will have a hard time preventing the two pawns that are going to crown. So I think the bishop on D, is it on E8? The bishop on E8 has to be centralized by black in order so to, like, maybe the pawn on E2, it doesn't have a protection per se because the bishop has to maneuver somewhere. But overall in this position, white is better. Um the knight on D1, I don't know what was the intention of the knight, because that pawn on E3 is not attacked per se, and he can even protect it with king on F2. So, when they say on the end games, the king, you have to be king up. So you have to centralize the king somehow. And
Correct.
overall, white is pawn up, but those two double pawns are going to be hard to protect. They are going
Yes.
to, and it's not opposite color bishop, so it's not necessarily a draw, although it can play out to be a draw. But when you have the same color bishop, it's not necessarily going to be a draw. The players can play it out till one bite the dust. So I think
Yes.
here, looking at the time is equal. Uh, black is he's fine with his 4 pawns on the king side, his 4 pawns on the queen side, and the almost centralized knight. So I think this game, we'll see how it
Mhm.
plays out though. But I feel like this game it doesn't have a necessarily immediate threat for either side. So if rather black can win his pawn on the queen side, I think he will be fine. So
Yes. Um, yeah. What are we looking at now? Looking there is okay. The games are still ongoing. Now we're going back to board one. Sorry, board two. Alfred Pesa against Keith. This game I would have loved to see from the opening to see which opening Mr. Pesa played against candidate Master Kumalo. But yeah, okay, there we go. Now we're going to look at E4,
that's
E6,
d4.
D4,
It's,
E5.
it's like the reverse French. Yeah, knight
Yeah,
c3,
it's
knight
very
c6.
knight F3, knight
It's like the
F6,
reverse French.
bishop
Mm.
E takes, knight
And bishop
takes,
bishop e7. Yeah,
and
very principled by Mr. Pesa.
yes, a very um, positional player there that stay in that. Okay, so that is as you can see, it's we only on move 11. Guys taking their
Mm.
time. So definitely. Are we aware what happened on board three, between Mr. Kolani and Mr. Bula and Tato
And
Apple at
Tato,
Apple?
I was
Okay,
yeah,
so
I was
they did
I was
play.
streaming. Mhm.
There's the game. The
Yeah, it's the Caracan defense with the exchange
Huracan.
variation on the e file.
Knight takes, and that is the current situation. I didn't know the game actually because we don't have. Or now we do have a cam there on board three. I see there's Kolani.
Mm.
So I think it's clear that
On
I'm listening.
on board three between Tato and Apple Green. I mean Tato and Matebula rather. Um, there's this line that goes by. I think it was Mikhail Tal. He was playing against Botvinnik. They were playing the Karakane. This line goes by. Before he castled, he played knight g5. Then Tal took on e6 rather. He took on e6. He took on e6. Then he sacrificed the piece on e6 actually. So when f crossed c6, then he played queen check, and from there on, Botvinnik's uh, king was so trapped in the middle that he eventually lost the piece. Eventually lost the game because they say his pieces were more undeveloped, and he was blocking this dark square bishop, and his light square bishop were nowhere to be found. So in this Caracal, there actually has a serious trap that perhaps Mr. Kolani overlooked. He wanted to play maybe something solid because is their actually first game playing together. These two players, these two great players. So nobody wants to lose. They want to play as safe as possible. So with this move on Bishop G5, he's actually developing his pieces, and I foresee
Yes.
that Tato might play Bishop E7 and try to castle himself. And
Yes.
those two knights, the F and the G knights, they're more nicely placed on the G3 and F3. And white is already castled. Nah,
Yes.
looks equalish. Although the pawn on D4, currently Kolani is a pawn down of 3 6 3 6. So he's actually a pawn down, and he'll be actually wanting to retake that pawn on the D file. Although it's not going anywhere. That pawn is still staying there, and he's going to take it on his own time. He
Yes.
just
I
wants to
think
play
that pawn
as
is.
aggressive as possible. Mm.
Yes, that pawn is a definite. He will get it at some stage. So he's not in a hurry to get. He's just trying to develop his pieces, attacking because black hasn't castled yet. So I think the tempo is in white's favor at this stage. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not too
And they
sharp with it.
say,
Um,
mm,
Now I'm listening.
it's not very principled for you to exchange the knight for a bishop, especially on this. I foresee this game is going to be as open as ever. So I don't think Mr. Kolani will take that knight on f6. He's not going to take it anyway. So it's development over material for him, which is a nice chess
Yes,
principle. So he's more
yes,
developed. He has castled, and his pieces are very
yeah.
very nicely synced. Nicely synced. So I think in this case, it's if the
The end game.
if you could put this under the engine. If you could put this under the engine will say 0.5 or 0.3 for white.
For
White
white,
is
yeah.
just slightly better. But we'll see how this game go about as time
Plays out,
goes.
yeah.
So mm,
I think it's definitely advantage for white. Um, it might even be equally if you look at the extra pawn that black has. But because of the extra tempo that white has and the fact that black hasn't castled yet, it
mm,
might also give white that extra advantage. Yeah. Um,
extra
but
advantage, yes.
going into the end game, definitely white's pieces are more developed. The F3 and G3 knights not working together, but it's one or two moves for them to be in sync. So there's Bishop
Mm,
E7.
mm, mm,
Um, I think White might look at either taking the pawn now or develop another piece. Rook maybe to E1, or there's not much queen moves that can be done.
mm.
Um,
But
as I
if you
said, with
take
the,
if you take the queen, if you take the bishop, I mean rather if you take the pawn on d4, oh, what is your refutation after black places e5?
E5.
That it, mm,
Um, it's probably is best then to just it's difficult if he takes the knight on on f6
on
because
f7, f6 rather. Mm,
yeah because the b2 pawn will be lost then with the, if bishop takes and e4 follows after that. Yeah, I'm not a Karokan. I haven't analyzed the Karokan that deeply. There he's playing the. So now let's look if he plays e5 because that's how we predicted. Best move might be to take the pawn. So now let's see what the refutation is now if e5 are played.
I saw, yeah, I saw Tolani took on
I
d4.
think
So
I think Tato will castle. Will look at safety of the king first before attacking that knight on d4.
yeah, yeah. But I think he can play e5. If he plays e5, then the knight has to lose another tempo. He has to go back to the f3 square. Then
Forward to f5. I think more attacking would be f5, getting the both knights into sync. Black is forced then to
mhm,
either g6 or to get the knight to move back anywhere to
mm,
to to maybe h4 and then back to f3. But if you haven't castled yet, any pawn move on the king side is a bit risky. So
yeah, it's a bit risky. But I saw Daniel Dubov was playing Magnus Carlsen, and he was just giving his pawns away. He was just, and there was this other game that they played on the Athens Masters. He did not even castle on that game, so he just pushed his pawns. He was playing more active, but I guess
yeah,
that was rapid, and this is more classical. So classical, you have to be as solid as ever. So I think the best move is to castle for Apple Green at this moment.
yes. I think Kolani, I'm not sure if you are in the Northern Cape Chess Players group on WhatsApp. I think Kolani mentioned that he prefers an open game. He is now, he preferred to have an open game against Tato. He was licking his lips for this for this match. So let's hope it works out for him. But against Tato, you never know. These guys are very
Yeah, you
dodgy.
never know. Yeah,
So yeah, okay.
and to tell you the truth, I practice with Tato from now and then. So Karokan was one of the lines that we actually studied thoroughly. Not to give too much away though, but this it's one of the lines that we actually looked thoroughly. That is this was one of the positions that we actually looked at. So very principled move by Polani to play rook e1 to centralize these more pieces. We know because that chess is all about the battle of the center. Let's see what's happening on other games. Red castle. Can you hear me, Mr. Wins?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm saying Queen B6 might be a good move, forcing Knight B3, attacking both the knight on D4 and the pawn on
On the B2
B2.
pawn. Mm,
Yes.
mm.
Also, these pieces, opening maybe um, with a knight move after that for his white squared bishop to get into the game.
Mm. Because the light square bishop is suffocating at this moment. It's really
Yes.
wanna cause. So in these open games like this, one of the principles of chess is to have your two bishops. The two bishops will be more more dominating than any other minor pieces. So
Mhm.
the best plan for any for all these two players, for rather these two players, is to keep the two bishops,
Yes.
which can really dominate the game because it's an open game. And
Hmm.
like you said, Polani is more good with open games because his chess geometry is just brilliant. The way he he visualized the whole board and how he can
Yeah.
maneuver his pieces. He is very
Yeah.
good actually.
He's a natural player, basically. Just get
Yes, he's a very natural.
in that position. I haven't played him yet,
Mm,
but I looked at his games, and as one of the best top players in the Northern Cape, he's really
mm.
very solid when it comes to positional play. Yeah, I would.
He suffocates slowly.
Okay, so what do you think the response would be from black side? Queen b6, best response. It would have been nice to put this on an engine, the position to see what the best move is. But I think it's a it's a developing attacking developing move. Queen b6 is I'd say is the most attacking developing move. Um, any
Queen
other move
Queen
might
b6,
pay
then
off.
Queen b6, then Kolani can play maybe knight b3,
Knight
but not
b3
but
is
knight b3, but knight b3 is a bit slow in a sense that it's the only move in the position though, but it's a bit slow in a sense that the knight is very nice when it's centralized like that. That knight is very active. It's not
mm-hmm,
an outpost knight, but it's very active. So like you played like you saw that Tato want to kick the bishop out.
mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe I love
Um,
playing crazy chess. I love visualizing crazy chess. I don't know if it was Daniel Dubois or Mikhail Tal or Rashid, you will take that H pawn, then you have to retake, then the fireworks on the board. But that knight is
wow,
very nice on f3, so it's kind of like defending everything. So it's safe for you to play the move h6.
yeah. Okay, bishop h4 is out of the question, so it's probably best to take on f6 at this stage instead of retreating with a black squared bishop. Um, but then that would
But
bring
taking
the queen to f6.
Yes, but taking on b6, don't you think that you are giving away your privilege of having two bishops? Because there's going to be an open game this one, and you want to have both your light square and your dark square bishop in the game. So
Yeah,
Tato will have his both bishops.
yeah. So if he doesn't take knight on the knight on f6, probably the best then would be bishop to e3. You'd say.
Yes. Mm. Yeah. So that's more like long term planning safe because two bishops in an end game are quite nice. They can even checkmate, So you can't give up
Yeah.
your two bishops in um, middle game like this. So, but we'll see what Mr. Kolani is gonna play.
Tato
Time
looks
Kolani
very
is 45,
comfortable.
45 minutes. Excuse
I,
me,
I
sir.
I see Tato is feeling very comfortable. He's after pawn to
Mm.
h6, he's stretching his
Mm.
legs. Kolani towards towards there. So um, you never know. Maybe as I said earlier on, it's all psychology. Pretending to
Mm.
think as if you never expected h6, but
Mm.
that guys doing this in these type of tournaments. But I think bishop e3 would be best if he doesn't exchange on f6. Also, very good what you said to keep the bishops on the board.
I think it'll be good for you to keep your bishop. And well, it's 44 minutes. The time is still looking all good for both players. Tato isn't used most of his time. I think he's used 7 minutes, so he's still well in his
Yeah.
preparation. It seems. So it's like Mr. Kolan is the one
Yes,
who does the thinking now.
correct.
So, but
Yeah.
that movie
Now
takes.
it's very difficult these days to loosen time. You know, the increment.
Yeah, but yeah, the increment.
I
How
think
much the
your
increment was
audio
it?
is starting again. Oh, is it there still load shedding on your side, Mr. Marcy?
Yes, there's still like heavy load shedding. So I think it's probably the network.
I can you hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're starting to break up. Now it's not as flu as yeah, I can hear you, but it's breaking up in between. So, but it seems as if okay, now you're gone. Seems yeah, maybe Mr. Ramase has now gone back to reboot. Let's hope that fixes the problem that's existing there. And so this is all theory, I'm sure. Although myself uh, am not too too not well aware of the Karukan defense. I haven't really studied the Karukan up until the stage in the opening. So yeah, but Bishop E3 looks best here if White doesn't exchange the knight on F6. Kalan is now taken, I think, almost 5 minutes now, contemplating his next move. As I said, okay, there, bishop goes, and it looks like it's not h3, but e3, but f4. Okay, that stops the plans of white's e5. Now we're going, seems, back to another board. Going back to Lizo on board one. Lizo playing Daniel, and Black's king has come out to the center since it's the end game. We haven't seen much change on the queen side with regards to the the 2 pawns on the A and the B pawns. It's just that the knight has gone back to C3. I think black white is threatening knight to D5 check. Okay, king is gone to this D8. I'm not sure if white will be eager to exchange rooks at this stage. If you're looking at exchanging rooks, then the A pawn is gone, basically. So it's difficult to. So I think the best move in this position would be B5. But that's just my personal opinion. Mr. Mas hasn't joined us yet. It would be interesting to know also what's happening between Mr. Pesa and Canadian Master Keith Kamalo. See Mr. Pesa sitting alone there at the table. Mr. Kamalo is taking a breather. Also seems as if Kolani as Mr. Applegreen there against Tato. As we look at Keith Kamalo returning and then going back again. Right, so Lizo taking his time here with the next move. We very deep in the middle game, close to the end game. So I think the White's King needs to become part of the action with the F2 perhaps, or the best move of pawn to B5. Don't see many other alternatives except for bishop to B7, but that will be counterattacked with rook C7. Okay, so King has gone to C7. After Rook went to D1 for check. So Black has ensured that he's brought his king to the queen side for more protection of the B pawn, and also to stop the so good 3-4 moves from Black's side to develop his king onto the queen side. I think at this stage, still the best move from white would be b5. Or bringing his king to f2 into the action. Okay, so still still I'm looking at the best move for white would be pawn to b5 or king to f2. Let's just see if we can try and get Mr. Marcia back commentating on the game. Rook has gone to E3, D3, protecting the knight there. Um, and I think definitely after this, we might look at white bringing out his king into towards the center. Let's see if we can go to board. I think it's board two between Mr. Alfred Pesa and Keith Kamalo. Welcome back, Mr. Ramasa.
Mr. Wayne, yeah, it's very
Welcome
very
back.
challenging. It's very challenging in South Africa. Yeah, the network is it's crazy. So I see Lizzo has played rook to d3.
That's correct. Yeah. Black
Yeah,
has
but the engine.
secured his. He secured that his king is on move to the queen side to protect this b pawn as well as both A and B pawns from white side. So that's been very good. White's king is still on G1. I think he needs to also get into the action.
He needs to get in the game. So, but according to the engine was suggesting that before white plays d3, you are supposed to play b4. I think it foresaw something like this bishop. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I was also suggesting pawn to B5. Yeah, you know, okay. Still, we're still waiting for Lisa to make his move after Black's Daniel's move to Bishop to C6. Um, might look at Bishop's exchange here, but let's wait and see. Okay, so seems we it's a bit difficult to get to see what's happening between on board two between Mr. Alfred Pesa and candidate master Keith Kumalo. Yeah, so until then, we're waiting for Daniel's move of for Lizo's move after Daniel's move bishop to c6. Um, Also, Mr. Ramase having technical difficulties there. I think it's because of the load shedding on their side. I don't think we expecting a pawn to e4 here. Um, but in this case, I would say even king to f2 possibly a good move. So if black decides to exchange bishops, then the problem of the double pawns from white side is gone because the f2 pawn, the e2 pawn will just take on f3. So we could look at king f2 in this situation, followed by b5 if black doesn't exchange immediately. Mr. Sikwati taking his time, making sure he doesn't make a mistake in this position. Mr. Jam, is it possible for us to perhaps look at what's happening on board two there between Keith Kumalo and Alfred Pesa? Okay, my apologies there. For the yes, I also seem to have picked up some technical difficulties there. Still, Lizo trying to take taking his time and trying to see what his best response would be against Bishop to B6. So um, we can. My apologies. Yeah, Lizo, you can see that Daniel is 15 minutes extra time on the clock compared to Lizo. Yeah, so let's hope Lizo does make the best move in this position, looking at the time that he's taking to ensure that he makes the best move. Okay, so we managed to get Mr. Pesa and candidate master Keith Komalo's game on the screen. White's last move, pawn to a3, and as you can see, it's still very equal. Only 21 moves been played thus far, and both looking very solid. It's just that Mr. Pesa is 15 minutes left on the clock compared to Alfred's 3 minutes. You see there that Keith Komalo's made his move, bishop to f1, retreating with the black squared bishop, and either preparing to move the knight back to e7 or just a waiting move. Not too sure. So very solid from both players here. Yeah, so it's good to see. It's good to look at this situation here. The Vice President of Chess South Africa, Mr. Alfred Pesa, against the future of Chess South Africa, candidate Master Keith Kumalo. These guys, very talented. Keith, Panele, guys, names that we all should remember, you know, because very talented and very knowledgeable when it comes to theory, chess. Okay, so now we can see that Mr. Pesa has played. See, Mr. Pesa has played pawn to h3 in response to candidate Master Keith Kumalo's retreat of the bishop to f8. And so now it's back to, since if it's black's time that's running. Okay, here we go. All right, so oh, knight to b6. Now, a very interesting move. We might look at bishops changing, white bishops being exchanged in this position. Otherwise, it's not really forced. Okay, so I think Pesa will take his time on this move. Okay, so both white squared bishops of the board as predicted. Now queen on b7. Once again, white still have 10 extra minutes compared to black's 14 minutes. So I think we might look at black playing knight to c4, a prominent square for the black knight, or might look at either f or b. Back with this knight to f3, wanting open d-file of rooks. So indeed, we looking at black playing the f, knight to d5. as predicted earlier on. So White's response now, after knight f to d5, queen c2. This is going to be very interesting game. Both players off the board, and it's Keith Kamalo's turn to play there. It's back at the board, so let's see at his response now. It doesn't have much time to play around with, but these guys very tactical. Comes to playing with their time. Blitz, rapid, sharp players. So not reading too much into the 9 minutes that's left. Okay, so now Keith coming out of this bishop to e6. Now the action is starting. I think we might see knight to e4 next. So that's a very interesting position currently. Um, Trying to get Mr. Ramase back online to commentate, co-commentate, but um, seems like there's still a load shedding on their side. All right. Yeah, so as I said earlier on, we might look at knight to e4 because that knight is being threat, but now looking we're seeing knight to e2 instead. Okay, so with knight e2, white planning to use the d4 outpost both knights. Okay, now we see that white has moved queen c2 to e4. Black hasn't got much time to um, to think. Mr. Pesa playing a very solid game here. And so looks very promising from white side. Just want to have a look and see if we have a result on any of our other boards thus far. Okay, a lot of moves that we must since queen e4. We saw the rook move to c4 and rook to d4 followed by queen c7, getting out of that from that b7 square. Now rook e to d1, doubling up rooks. Very exciting. And white might also be planning knight to e4, e5, sorry. Okay, so we see rook takes d4. So which knight takes or rook takes? Knight f3 takes is it's out of the question because queen to h2 is it's very strong. So that queen and bishop on that b8 h2 diagonal, creating a lot of problems for white. So definitely has to think, has a lot to think about now in this position. There's still have lots of 16 minutes, whereas Ken Master Keith Kumalo is left with just under 5 minutes. Okay, so Mr. Piesa taking his time because there's definitely lots to think about in this position. Um, taking with a queen, so I think that's very good. Okay, we at move 30. Black play and looking at a lot of options. Okay, so now we can see has brought these rook out from d8 to d7, making sure that it's on the same rank as the queen, just in case white has any plans of moving, of having a direct attack on that d file. So 31st move for white to come. I don't expect it to be a pawn move. Knight on f3 is forced to stay there, so I think we might look at the knight on d2 or the black squared bishop coming out at some stage. Now, looking at the position as it is, I think knight to g3 looks very promising. Okay, white replied with queen to e4. Creating space for his e knight. Go to d4. Also getting his queen out of that attack from the rook. Could see knight f6, which looks very entertaining. Okay, knight a4. Knight e4. As I said earlier, we might see knight d4 played next. Okay, we see Mr. Pesa taking his time here on this 3-second move. And there we see it. Queen goes to G4. Okay, so we might look at knight f6. As I said earlier on, very entertaining move. So Lizo, candidate master Keith Kumalo having less than a minute left on the clock. King f8. Making sure that white cannot play bishop take h6. I think knight g3 is also a very good move in this position. Followed by knight h5. Finally, we see knight f6. um, I expected knight to g3 from white, but instead played knight to d4, and that followed by black's response of knight f6. So lots happening now this stage, and we might see some interesting play from both players at this stage, because there's a lot of active play that could come. Um, Also looking good. I was expecting queen takes e6, but now instead queen goes to h4. Still threatening bishop take h6. Okay, that's followed by e5 from Yves Malo. And white cannot move that knight. Because it would be a forced checkmate in 2 moves. Yeah, unless he plays knight c6 for a check, but that would be still losing the knight. Let's see if Stafford Pesa can. Wow, bishop h6. Okay, it's coming. So now black has the option of pawn takes h6, followed by queen takes h6 check, and king e8 or e7. Okay, so it's either queen takes h6 or queen takes f6. I think taking on is the better option here. Lots of possibilities. Okay, so we see queen taking f6. So it's clear that pawn will take d4. Yeah, now we see king moving back to g8. The piece is time down to 3.5 minutes. And in a bit of predicament. Okay, so drawn first round between Alfred Pesa and candidate Master Keith Kamalo. I haven't received any of the other games yet, but it's clear the first round between the results from this game, Alfred Pesa and candidate Master Keith Kamalo ending in a draw. Right, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you. Until tomorrow.